Chief Researcher Zyxtal of the Galactic Science Council stood motionless, all 6 of their sensory appendages twitching in disbelief as they read the assignment notification for the 3rd time. Their crystalline exoskeleton flickered between shades of pale blue and alarmed orange, reflecting their internal turmoil. "This must be an error," they muttered, their translator converting the chemical signals into standard galactic common. "Computer, verify designation, Sol 3, designation Earth." The ship's AI responded with characteristic precision, Sol 3, designation Earth. Class 13 Deathworld. Gravity, 9.8 meters per square second. Atmosphere, nitrogen-oxygen mix with multiple trace elements. Biosphere, extreme diversity with over 8.7 million documented species. Status, inhabited by technological species designated humans. Zyxtal's second-in-command, Research Officer Venare, entered the command center, their own crystalline form shimmering with excitement. "Have you seen the preliminary readings, Chief? The planet's magnetic field alone would scramble most species' neural patterns." "Indeed," Zyxtal responded, their color shifting to a deep purple of concern. "And yet the Council insists we conduct a full planetary survey. With a native technological species present, no less." The research vessel, Eternal Curiosity, hung in high orbit around Earth, its advanced sensors gathering data that seemed to become more alarming with each passing moment. The ship's crew of 12, all members of the crystalline luminary species, had been selected for their expertise in extreme environment research. But even they hadn't expected this level of hostility from a supposedly inhabited world. "The atmospheric pressure variations alone," muttered Senior Atmospheric Specialist KIRX, their form flickering rapidly between colors as they processed the data. "How can any species survive in an environment where pressure systems can change so dramatically within hours?" "Perhaps they don't," suggested Venare. "Maybe they live in sealed environments, like we would have to." Zyxtal moved to the main observation window, their crystalline form refracting the starlight. "No, according to the preliminary reports, they live openly in these conditions. They even have recreational activities they call weather watching." The crew fell silent, trying to comprehend the idea of treating lethal environmental conditions as entertainment. "We'll need to modify our standard survey protocols," Zyxtal announced, their color settling into a determined green. "Triple reinforced environmental suits, constant monitoring for atmospheric corrosion, and no direct contact with native flora or fauna until we've conducted thorough analysis." The landing site had been carefully selected, a relatively stable region in what humans called northern Canada. The location promised minimal human interaction while still offering access to various biomes for study. As the survey shuttle descended through the atmosphere, the entire crew watched in horror as their instruments registered the chaotic mix of elements and energies that humans called weather. Lightning crackled around their shields, wind currents buffeted their craft, and readings showed dozens of potentially lethal environmental factors. "By the first crystal," whispered Venare, "how do they survive this? The electrical discharges alone could overload a lesser species' nervous system." The shuttle landed in a clearing, its sensors sweeping the area for immediate threats. The crew began their meticulous preparation for their first surface expedition, each movement carefully calculated to account for the crushing gravity. "Remember," Zyxtal instructed as they helped secure Venare's environmental suit, "we're here to observe and document. No unnecessary risks. This planet has already claimed the lives of 3 previous survey teams who underestimated its dangers." As they stepped onto Earth's surface for the first time, their suit sensors immediately began registering warnings. The ground beneath their feet contained countless microorganisms. The air, even filtered, carried spores and particles that their systems flagged as potentially hazardous. And the gravity, that relentless, crushing gravity, made every movement an effort. "Chief," called out KIRX, their voice tense, "I'm detecting approaching weather formations that could pose significant risks. The humans call it rain." Before Zyxtal could respond, the first droplets began to fall. The team watched in fascination and horror as water, actual dihydrogen monoxide in its liquid form, fell freely from the sky. Their suit's external sensors registered the pH level of the precipitation and immediately flashed warnings. "It's acidic!" Venare exclaimed, their crystalline form flickering in panic beneath their suit. "The water falling from the sky is actually acidic, and the humans just live with this?" Zyxtal stared up at the darkening sky, their scientific curiosity battling with their survival instincts. "This is just the beginning," they said, their voice filled with a mixture of dread and awe. "We haven't even started to document the biological aspects of this death world. And somewhere out there, a species not only survives in these conditions but has built civilizations in them." As if to emphasize their point, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the landscape, causing the entire team to huddle closer together. Their first day on Earth had barely begun, and already they were questioning everything they thought they knew about what conditions could support life. The galaxy, it seemed, had greatly underestimated both Earth and its inhabitants. And this was just the first hour of their survey mission. The research team huddled inside their reinforced shelter as another explosion of light and sound rocked the atmosphere above them. 3 days into their Earth survey, and the planet seemed determined to demonstrate exactly why it deserved its Class 13 designation. "That's the 47th electrical discharge in the past hour," reported KIRX, their crystalline form vibrating with each thunderclap. The atmospheric specialist had barely moved from their monitoring station since the storm began. "The energy output is enough to power a small colony for a day, and it's just happening. Naturally. Repeatedly." Zyxtal observed the storm through the shelter's protective screens, their color shifting between fascination and terror. The humans called this common phenomenon a thunderstorm, as if the combination of electrical discharges, acidic precipitation, and atmospheric pressure fluctuations was mundane enough to deserve such a simple name. "Chief," Venare called out, their form pulsing with urgency, "you need to see these readings. The local temperature is dropping rapidly." "Dropping? But the sun is still visible through the cloud cover." Zyxtal moved to examine Venare's data display. "How is that possible?" "It's something the humans call a cold front," Venare explained, their color shifting to the deep blue of scientific concentration. "Apparently, masses of air at dramatically different temperatures can collide, creating these violent weather patterns. And this is considered normal here." The shelter's external sensors continued logging data as hail began to fall, frozen projectiles of acidic water plummeting from the sky with enough force to damage their equipment. The team watched in horror as ice accumulated on their external sensors, the temperature continuing to plummet. "The atmospheric composition is changing again," KIRX announced, their form flickering rapidly as they processed the new data. "The humidity levels are fluctuating wildly. How do the humans' bodies cope with such rapid environmental changes?" Their questions were interrupted by an alert from their long-range sensors. A massive weather system was approaching, something the humans called a supercell. The data streaming across their screens seemed to defy logic: rotating air masses, multiple electrical discharge centers, and precipitation in various states of matter all occurring simultaneously. "Evacuation protocols," suggested Venare, their color paling to a nervous white. Zyxtal's form hardened with determination. "No. We're here to study this death world. If humans can survive these conditions, we can at least observe them from our shelter." The decision would prove both terrifying and enlightening. As the supercell passed over their location, the team witnessed weather patterns that would be considered apocalyptic on most inhabited worlds. Wind speeds exceeded 150 km per hour, creating a roaring sound that penetrated even their shelter's insulation. The air pressure dropped so rapidly that their environmental systems struggled to compensate. "Look at this," Venare called out, pointing to their external cameras. A massive funnel of rotating air was forming, reaching down from the clouds like a malevolent tentacle. "The humans call it a tornado." It's a naturally occurring atmospheric vortex capable of lifting vehicles and destroying structures. The research team watched in stunned silence as the tornado passed several kilometers from their location, its raw power visible even at a distance. Their instruments recorded winds that could strip the crystalline shells from their bodies in seconds. And humans just live with these? KRX asked, their voice trembling. They build their homes knowing these phenomena could occur. Not only that, ZYXTAL responded, accessing their database of human information, they study them. They chase them in vehicles to gather data. They've developed an entire scientific field around predicting and understanding these storms. As if Earth's regular weather patterns weren't challenging enough, their research soon revealed even more shocking meteorological phenomena. The team discovered that humans categorized their storms into various types, each with its own set of hazards: hurricanes, blizzards, dust storms, and something particularly terrifying called microbursts. I've been analyzing their historical weather data, Venare reported during their evening briefing. Some regions of this planet experience temperature variations of over 50 degrees Celsius within a single planetary rotation. The humans don't even evacuate. They just put on different coverings and continue their activities. The storm finally passed after several hours, leaving behind a transformed landscape. The air had been cleaned of particulate matter, the temperature had dropped significantly, and the local flora seemed to have not only survived but appeared more vibrant. This is why we can't apply our standard classification systems to Earth, ZYXTAL concluded, making notes for their report to the Galactic Science Council. What we consider catastrophic environmental events are actually essential components of this planet's ecosystems. And somehow, humans have evolved not just to survive these conditions, but to thrive in them. As if to punctuate their observation, a brilliant array of colors suddenly appeared in the sky, the infamous aurora borealis, caused by solar radiation interacting with Earth's magnetic field. The team stared in wonder at the display that would have sent any sensible species running for radiation shelters. Perhaps, ZYXTAL mused, their form reflecting the auroral lights, we need to reconsider our definition of what constitutes a hostile environment. The real question isn't how humans survive here, it's what kind of species would evolve to consider these conditions normal. The answer to that question, they were beginning to realize, might be more terrifying than any storm Earth could produce. After surviving their encounter with Earth's atmospheric phenomena, the research team turned their attention to the planet's biological systems. What they discovered made their previous concerns about weather seem almost trivial by comparison. This can't be correct, junior biologist Mir-Th announced, running the analysis for the fourth time. Their crystalline form flickered with agitation as they studied the results. According to these readings, the local soil contains over 10 billion microorganisms per cubic centimeter. ZYXTAL moved to examine the data, their own form pulsing with concern. And each of these organisms is actively consuming, reproducing, and evolving? In real time? Affirmative, Mir-Th confirmed. What we're seeing isn't just life, it's warfare on a microscopic scale. Predation, chemical warfare, symbiotic alliances, it's a complete ecosystem that we can barely perceive. The team had established a new research perimeter in what humans called a temperate forest. Their initial survey revealed that every surface, from the soil to the tree bark to the very air itself, teemed with life forms engaged in constant competition and cooperation. Chief, Venare called out, their voice tight with anxiety, you need to see this footage from our drone survey. The display showed a time-lapse of various plants growing, but what caught everyone's attention was the speed and apparent intelligence behind their movements. Vines actively sought out support structures, roots engaged in chemical warfare against competitors, and flowers tracked the sun's movement with deadly precision. They're not just growing, KIRX observed, their color shifting to a deep purple of concern. They're hunting. The team watched as a sequence showed a Venus flytrap capturing an insect. The plant's rapid response time and mechanical efficiency left them in stunned silence. A plant that hunts animals, ZYXTAL muttered, making notes for their report. And humans consider this normal enough to keep these creatures as decorative items in their dwellings. Their investigation of Earth's larger fauna proved equally disturbing. The research team discovered that many Earth creatures possessed abilities that would be considered superweapons on other worlds: venoms that could destroy neural systems, camouflage that bent light itself, regenerative capabilities that defied physical laws. "Look at this specimen," Mir-Th indicated a small lizard on their screen. "When threatened, it detaches parts of its body as a defensive mechanism, and then grows them back. The energy requirements alone should make this impossible." But perhaps most alarming was their discovery of Earth's apex predators. The team spent hours reviewing footage of creatures like bears, wolves, and particularly disturbing animals called honey badgers. "These organisms literally engage in chemical warfare," Venare reported, analyzing data from a skunk encounter. "They've evolved specialized glands to produce and deploy toxic compounds. And some creatures, like this platypus, combine multiple weapon systems that shouldn't evolutionarily coexist." The deeper they delved into Earth's biosphere, the more unsettling their discoveries became. They found organisms thriving in conditions that should have been lethal: bacteria in boiling hot springs, fungi that consumed radiation, creatures that could survive the vacuum of space. "It's not just that Earth is hostile," Zyxtal observed during their evening briefing. "It's that life here has turned hostility into an art form. Every organism is either a weapon, armor, or both." Their most shocking discovery came when studying what appeared to be a simple forest ecosystem. The team detected complex chemical signals being exchanged between trees through underground fungal networks. "They're communicating," Mir-Th explained, their form shimmering with excitement and fear. "The entire forest is a single interconnected network, sharing resources and information about threats. It's essentially a planetary-scale neural network." The implications were staggering. Earth wasn't just a planet with dangerous life forms, it was a fully integrated battle sphere where every organism had evolved in response to constant threats and challenges. "Consider this," Zyxtal said, displaying a hologram of Earth's evolutionary timeline. "This planet has experienced multiple mass extinction events, each capable of wiping out most life forms. Yet instead of becoming more fragile, life here became more resilient. Each catastrophe served as an evolutionary forge, creating organisms that could survive increasingly hostile conditions." The team's discussion was interrupted by an alert from their perimeter sensors. A large mammalian predator, what their database identified as a grizzly bear, was approaching their research site. "Observe its thermal signature," Venare noted, their voice filled with professional admiration despite their fear. "Its metabolic efficiency is remarkable. It's carrying enough stored energy to power a small spacecraft, and it can deploy that energy in bursts of speed and strength that our best engineering can't match." As they watched the bear move through their research zone, casually displaying strength that could crush their crystalline forms like primitive silica, Zyxtal made a sobering observation. "We've been approaching this all wrong," they said, their color shifting to the deep blue of revelation. "We kept asking how humans survive on this death world. But the real question is, what kind of species would evolve as the dominant life form in an environment where everything, from microscopic soil bacteria to the weather itself, is lethal by galactic standards?" The answer to that question would soon become apparent, and it would forever change how the galaxy viewed humanity. The inevitable encounter with humans occurred during the team's investigation of a phenomenon they found particularly disturbing: seasonal temperature variations. Their research site had been carefully chosen to avoid human contact, but they hadn't accounted for something called extreme sports enthusiasts. "Chief," Venare's voice crackled over the comm system, their usual calm shattered by panic. "3 humans are approaching our position. They're moving through the terrain at high speed, riding on primitive devices attached to their feet." Zyxtal rushed to the observation post, their crystalline form flickering between alarm and scientific curiosity. Through their enhanced visuals, they watched as 3 humans navigated the treacherous mountain slope with casual ease, their bodies adapting to each variation in terrain with fluid grace. They're skiing, Mir-Th announced, consulting their database. It's a recreational activity. They're deliberately sliding down a frozen mountain slope at high velocity. For entertainment. The team watched in horror as one of the humans launched themselves off a natural formation, spinning through the air before landing smoothly and continuing their descent. The casual display of mastery over gravity and momentum left the researchers speechless. Should we evacuate? KRX asked, their form pulsing with anxiety. But before ZYXTAL could respond, one of the humans had already spotted their research station and was approaching with alarming speed. Hello there. The human's voice boomed across the snow-covered landscape. You must be the alien research team we were told about. I'm Dr. Raj Patel from the International Scientific Cooperation Committee. Hope we didn't startle you. The human's casual greeting, delivered while standing in temperatures that should have frozen their cellular structure, marked the beginning of the most unsettling phase of their research. Dr. Patel, it turned out, had been assigned to assist alien research teams in understanding Earth's unique characteristics. His colleagues, professional athletes Sofia Rodriguez and James Turner, were there to demonstrate human adaptability to extreme conditions. Would you like to see some of our normal training routines? Sophia offered, her breath visible in the frigid air. The team watched in mute horror as the humans proceeded to demonstrate activities they called winter sports. Fascinating, ZYXTAL managed to transmit through their translator, as James performed something called a backflip off a snow bank. You deliberately expose yourselves to these conditions, for recreation. Oh, this is nothing, Raj laughed, the sound echoing across the mountainside. Wait until you see what people do in Death Valley, or deep-sea diving, or free climbing. Humans pretty much turned extreme environment survival into an art form. The research team spent the next several days observing their human guests, each moment bringing new revelations about the species' capabilities. They watched as the humans regulated their body temperature through something called sweating, consumed a wide variety of substances that would be considered toxic on most worlds, and casually discussed their adventures in environments that should have been instantly lethal. Yesterday, I was cave diving in Mexico, Sophia mentioned during one of their interviews. You know, exploring underwater caves in complete darkness. Next week, I'm heading to the Sahara for a marathon. You, run through a desert. Voluntarily. KRX's translator barely managed to convey their incredulity. Well, yeah, Sophia shrugged. It's a great workout. Though not as intense as the ultramarathon I did in Antarctica last year. The team's scientific detachment began to crack as they compiled their observations. Humans didn't just survive in Earth's hostile conditions, they actively sought out greater challenges. They created sports and activities specifically designed to push the limits of their already remarkable adaptability. Look at their cellular structure, Mir-Th reported during an evening analysis session. Their bodies don't just resist damage, they become stronger in response to it. Physical stress, environmental pressures, even radiation exposure within certain limits, they adapt to it all. And their neural architecture, Venare added, their form pulsing with a mix of fear and fascination. They can override their own survival instincts through something they call willpower. They can choose to continue functioning even when their bodies signal critical failure. The implications became even more terrifying when Dr. Patel casually mentioned humanity's history of warfare. The research team learned that humans had developed their technology not despite Earth's hostile conditions, but because of them. Every environmental challenge had pushed them to innovate, adapt, and overcome. You have to understand, Raj explained, warming his hands around something called hot chocolate, Earth's conditions forced us to become problem solvers. When we encountered something that could kill us, we didn't just find ways to survive it, we found ways to use it to our advantage. ZYXTAL's final notes for this section of their report contained a warning that would send shockwaves through the Galactic Council: humans are not merely the dominant species of a death world. They are the product of an evolutionary crucible that has forged them into living weapons. Their adaptability isn't just biological, it's psychological and cultural. They actively seek out hostile conditions to test themselves against them. And perhaps most terrifyingly, they do this for fun. As if to emphasize this point, their human guests invited them to something called a winter barbecue, casually grilling food in sub-zero temperatures while discussing their plans for future adventures in environments that the research team's suits could barely withstand. The galaxy had classified Earth as a death world, but they had missed a crucial detail: its inhabitants had embraced this designation as a challenge rather than a limitation. The galactic paradigm shift. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic presentation unfolded. Captain Zara Vox stood at the center, her presentation systematically dismantling centuries of preconceived notions about humanity. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice calm and resolute, "what we've discovered about Earth challenges everything we thought we knew about intelligent life." The hologram shifted, displaying a montage of human achievements. From the first lunar landing to quantum computing breakthroughs, from medical innovations to environmental restoration projects, the images told a story of relentless innovation. Elder Krall of the Quantum Collective leaned forward, his crystalline form shimmering with curiosity. "Explain the core of your findings, Captain." Zara activated the next sequence. "Humans possess a unique characteristic we've never encountered before: adaptive resilience coupled with unprecedented creativity. They don't just survive challenges, they transform them into opportunities." The hologram showed a series of seemingly impossible scenarios. A small group of humans developing clean energy solutions. Communities rebuilding after natural disasters. Scientists connecting across global networks to solve complex problems. Their greatest strength, Zara continued, is not technological. It's their ability to unite, to imagine beyond current limitations, to turn adversity into advancement. Krall, standing beside her, projected additional data. "Our initial classification of Earth as a problematic world was fundamentally incorrect. What we perceived as chaos is actually a complex adaptive system." The council members exchanged glances. The Luminari had explored thousands of worlds, catalogued millions of species, but humanity was something entirely different. A representative from the Stellar Confederation spoke up. "Are you suggesting we recategorize Earth?" "More than that," Zara responded. "We need to fundamentally reimagine our approach to emerging civilizations. Humans don't need protection or intervention. They need recognition." The next series of images shocked the council. Humans cleaning ocean plastics, developing sustainable technologies, creating global communication networks that bridged cultural divides. Each image challenged the traditional galactic understanding of technological progress. "They are not a species to be studied," Zara declared. "They are a species to be understood." Krall projected a final piece of data, a comprehensive analysis of human potential. The numbers were staggering. Potential technological growth curves that defied previous modeling. Adaptive capabilities that suggested they could potentially solve challenges considered insurmountable by other species. Elder Krall's voice resonated through the chamber. "A motion is being considered. The formal recognition of humanity as a Tier 1 emerging civilization with full diplomatic and technological exchange rights." The chamber erupted in a mix of murmurs, debates, and barely contained excitement. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through military might or technological superiority. They had done something far more profound: they had challenged the very definition of intelligence and potential. As the debate continued, Zara allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy was about to change, and humans would be at the center of that transformation. The holographic display continued to cycle through images of human innovation, each frame a testament to a species that refused to be defined by limitations, a species that saw challenges not as obstacles, but as invitations to create something extraordinary.